I totally agree with at the beginning of his talk. He said the difference of billionaires and normal successful people is just super ambition hungry, and they're not comfortable with just being wealthy enough to maybe put their kids in school or maybe retire somewhere. I sat down for dinner with two heads of an $8 billion family office. They have 35 clients. The average net worth of their clients is $138 million per client, and they serve 5 billionaires. And we were having sushi, and at different times of the dinner when the other person couldn't hear me, I said, what makes the difference of like your clients getting to 100 million plus? And there's lots of successful people that at 5 or 10 million, one of the most successful people from your high school graduating class or among your friends maybe that you grew up with. What makes that difference? And both of them said the exact same thing without them knowing I was going to ask them that. They both said a lot of people take their foot off the gas once they get to a certain level, and they mostly coast, do some passive investments, play golf, travel a lot. He said, our clients, they are super driven internally and they keep on going. And it's like a game that they're very hungry to win versus just coast when they're successful enough. So for some of you, you might care to hear that, some not, but I just thought about that during his talk. So I'm going to talk about one of the areas that nobody comes to our investor club to improve their positioning, but it's a force multiplier. Meaning that if you put a little bit of energy into positioning, it can make a huge difference. The founder of Paychex took $25,000, turned it into $4 billion, and he will not invest in somebody's company, a startup, et cetera, unless it is branded to attract business, because the name Paychex did so much for him. He says it's such a huge multiplier to have an amazing brand name that if you mess that up and you're not listening to my coaching, like we're already done. I'm not investing in your company. That's how big of a deal it is to him. Yet every single person I tell this to in our investor club's like, oh no, can't change my brand. I already have $20 of business cards. I have this $8 domain name from GoDaddy. Too much effort. Give me some other insights. Give me something I can use. We had an $8 billion wealth advisor in our club. They rebranded at 500 clients at $8 billion in AUM, and they now manage over $25 billion. They didn't care to rebrand at $8 billion in AUM, so I'd leave it on the table if you see an idea to rebrand into. Arnold, the documentary on Netflix, the very first line of the documentary was so impactful, I remember it almost verbatim, and that is that he said his whole life he's been able to see things so clearly and envision it and focus on it that he would just work hard until it became a reality. And the first chapter of his book, which I read with my kids, is Crystal Clear Vision. That's partially what we're going to talk about today. We just heard that you should not copy other people. We're going to talk about that today as well. Vern Harnish, the founder of EO, wrote the book Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. He talks about finding, for example, a 7% niche that might have 70% of all the profits. Focus on where you could do exceptional. Either you can be exceptional, or it's just a great niche to focus on. Jim Collins in Good to Great shows this hedgehog strategy. He says when you're making decisions, it shouldn't just be based on what sounds best or what's newest or what could make the most money. You'll get ran over if you do that. You have to make a multifold decision here where it's what you're passionate about, what makes money, and what your DNA allows you to be good at, right? If it's not all those things, then it's not going to work. If you make you a lot of money and you're naturally good at it, but you're not passionate, then you're not going to implement the idea from today's mastermind on your way home today. And the person who's passionate is going to implement it, and by Monday already be using half of the AI tools we talked about. And they're going to run circles around you and have eaten your lunch by the time you show up to eat yours, right? And so passion is important, but so are these other elements. And then I find that if I focus on what my biggest strength is, where there's the most future demand and where there's the lowest competition, then things go a lot better. Because you can do all these things that Jim Collins says, but if there's a ton of competition, then it's just a slog and it's painful, and it's not even worth competing on that playing field. That might just be painful to be in. And what I see is that a lot of people don't get replies to their emails when they're raising capital because it looks like the same as everyone else. It sounds generic. It sounds like everything else. And so you have to be so dialed in that you are the most valuable thing in somebody's inbox, and they have to reply to you because you're offering value while everyone else pitches or says, will you get on the phone to hear my deal? Or can I meet with you to pitch you something? Or can I sell you this service that's amazing? And instead you say, here's an infographic on the 12 questions you should be asking anytime you invest your money into healthcare or a fintech or whatever it is. Or here is a DDQ template that you can use for any investor meeting. Or here's a free AI tool. When we email every billionaire on planet Earth for billionaires.com, what we're doing right now is offering them free access to our billionaire collective intelligence tool and free access to our Dewey due diligence tool. So they're getting free AI tools from us dialed into who they are. And we say, have your team use these, and I think you'll like them, get value. And by the way, would love to interview you over a quick Zoom call, over email, over the phone, or on stage at our events. Peter Thiel says that extreme focus is a superpower, and I definitely believe in that. We're going to cover more on that later. Jay Abraham's one of the smartest business development people alive today. A lot of the best marketers and business developers in the world, world-class ones, know Jay Abraham or studied him. And in all of his teachings, the number one most important word, and he says this himself, is preeminence. It means that in a niche, people think of you first, they defer to your judgment, and you do dominate that niche or sub-niche. That's why you don't want to go into a place that's super competitive, because if you want to be an expert on stocks, you're competing against Warren Buffett and Ray Dalio and everyone else, right? And then if you want to be an expert in penny stocks, there's too many people competing for that nowadays. Biotech penny stocks, okay, maybe that's a thin enough niche where if you wanted to, you could be number one of that niche if that's the niche you decided on, right? It's just an example. At the end of the day, I think investors are looking around and, in Ghostbusters, he's trying to find the key master. Are you the key master? Are you the key master? And I think in half a second, people look at an email, a pitch, a voicemail, meet you, and they're wondering, are you the expert that should be a steward of my wealth for fintech? Are you the real deal or not? And they're deciding that instantly when they look at everything you do. So this is why you want to position clearly. You get more voicemails returned, better engagement, better email replies, more deals sourced, and you get all the negatives. If your brand is Wilson Capital, nobody knows if you're investing in dry cleaners in Zimbabwe or fintech in Singapore, because it's Wilson Capital or some Greek god capital, and nobody asks what's the meaning behind the Greek god except for 2 people a year. Like, it just doesn't do anything for you. It's not sweating for you. If you have a good position, it sweats for you, just like if you have a good investment structure. So here's before logo, after logo. When we revised it, Access Loans made it look like the fintech company it was. We sold that to a bank owned by a billionaire a couple of years ago. Dynastic Development, we don't know if they're offering family office development or if they're developing car washes. Turns out they were doing commercial real estate project management for construction. So we rebranded it into CRE Construction Partners and just made it look more institutional quality. So it's positioned, clear what you do. If you're at a busy event, and you get a stack of business cards, which happens at our 400, 700 person events, and someone follows up with you and they don't have a picture at the bottom of their email and their brand name is confusing, there's no one-liner on their email, how do you even remember who that was at that busy conference? Or when you look at their business card, now you have to look at their website to see what Poseidon Capital does. I hope that's not a real name in the room. I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but like just some random Greek god name or something. So I would use videos to position yourself. We've had lots of decamillionaires and centimillionaires say, I watched a whole bunch of your videos. That's why I'm here today. That's why I'm reaching out, because I loved your mini series on how to start a family office. Or I loved your mini series on centimillionaires, et cetera. On Wednesday, no, it was Tuesday this week, we had Garen speak for the second time. He's had a full heart transplant. When I met him, he was doing $30 million in revenue. He just spent time in the hospital recovering from a surgery. And he said it was laying in his hospital bed, streaming all my YouTube videos, that he reached out cold. And now he's doing $70 million in revenue last year. And this year he's on track to hit $125 million a year. And it was because of videos that positioned us on a niche topic. And they're not perfectly produced, as you could see from those previews, right? It's not like I hired a camera crew, in case that's not super obvious. These bad lighting videos or birds chirping up in Zug in Switzerland. We just put out genuinely authentic, valuable content on a little niche and positioned ourselves. We're going to get to this slide later. Don't have to do it now. We're going to switch it up and have another guest speaker, but this positioning section and the mental models and the AI will build up throughout the whole day. And I'd remind you, on page 17 of your workbook, you've got some note-taking sections. So just open to taking questions, but also maybe write down a note. Is there any positioning you need to work on for the name of your firm, for how you identify what you do? How do you make what you do night and day different, crystal clear, unique, and compelling from what everyone else does in your space, and not confuse people with the name of your business? At one point, we did family office events, and we were starting to do more private equity and some niche real estate events. So we rebranded Family Office Club to Wilson Conferences, and everything went straight down. We put it back to Family Office Club, back up. So that was a very clear lesson where this went deep in my brain that is super important. If you are a founder, raising capital, developing real estate, or you're an investor, we'd love for you to get involved in the Family Office Club.
I've run this community for 18 years now. We've hosted 300 live events. We have 17 million social media group members and followers. We have the #1 YouTube channel on family offices. We have the #1 most popular podcast on family offices. You can learn more about us and our membership options at familyoffices.com. We have 30 in-person events planned in 2026 and another dozen events this year. Please go to familyoffices.com to learn more.